Thank you, Cadet Sacco, Cadet Hellman, and Cadet Ross. For those of you that are just joining us, I did just remember to click the record button as Wilkes University asked me to do. So I'll reintroduce myself for the record button and for the folks that just joined in on the meeting. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Hedrick. I'm the commander of the Air Force ROTC program, the Detachment 752 at Wilkes University. And happy to have you here. I'm really excited to see this many people in our group and interested in what ROTC has to offer. I have a short presentation with some basic information, depending on how familiar you are with Air Force ROTC or with the Air Force itself. Some stuff may be repetitive, you might already know it, but a lot of it might be new to you as well. You're welcome to type questions into the chat room or raise your hand, and the cadets that are on the line can help answer some questions either in the chat or if you have a question that you'd like to pipe up over the microphone or turn on your video, you're welcome to do that as well. Do I have any questions to start with before I do the presentation? No? Okay, great. So I've got a presentation that I'll share with you. Okay, like I said, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Hedrick. I've got Cadet Ross, Cadet Hellman, and Cadet Sacco on the line with me as well. And this is a little bit about Air Force ROTC and our Detachment 752 at Wilkes University. So we're going to talk about what Air Force ROTC is, a little bit about some scholarship opportunities that are available to you, what careers you might be able to enjoy in the Air Force or the Space Force after college, some of the benefits that you have by being a part of the military and specifically as being an officer in the military, a little bit of information about how you sign up and join our program, and then we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. So the Air Force ROTC program's primary job is to recruit, educate, and commission officers into the Air Force and now as well the Space Force. That's what we do. We have to develop leaders of character for tomorrow's forces. And if you're not interested in being a leader in our military, in the Air Force and the Space Force, you come to the wrong place. So just wanted to make sure that you know that this is definitely a leadership track primarily in our armed services with some really awesome opportunities to be a part of the Air and Space Force missions. The Air Force ROTC program is located across the United States at 145 different host colleges, but we also partner with over 1,100 different what we call crosstown universities. Wilkes has several. This is a list of the universities that we partner with in the area. So even if you are considering going to another university in this area, you may be able to be a part of Detachment 752 as well. In fact, we've got 2 cadets on the line that are from King's College and are used to traveling the entire block to campus over at Wilkes University to come be with us. We do, I think East Stroudsburg University is probably the farthest away, and I think it's 45 minutes to an hour depending on traffic and where the student lives, but they're all pretty local, so I hope that they are able to get together with all their fellow cadets outside of mandatory classroom time as well. Air Force ROTC is obviously an education, but it's also more than an education. We spend 1 to 3 hours per week in classroom studies, so actual classes provided by the university. Your instructors are actually professors and assistant professors in the aerospace studies division. And so your freshman and sophomore year, you'll have a 1 hour long class each week. And then junior and senior years, you will have 3 hour classes each week. We also have a leadership laboratory, and much like what you would do in maybe a chemistry or physics laboratory, you do hands-on training and hands-on learning. And this is all cadet run. It's a 2-hour per week time period, and we're talking about doing just a little bit of extra work this semester as well. But it's cadets putting together the program for what we're going to learn, putting together the syllabus for all the different exercises that we're going to do. And it's really a great way to learn about the military and learn all the different parts of what it takes to be an officer. And then last but definitely not least is physical fitness. This is very important to the Air Force and has become even more so in recent years. So twice a week, we have group fitness sessions, once on Tuesday mornings for about an hour, and then once on Thursday evenings for about an hour as well. Some of the really, really cool benefits that you have in the Air Force ROTC program are all of our summer programs that we have outside of the normal semester classrooms. This is a list of a few of them. I'll touch on a couple. Operations Air Force is where you get to go to an actual Air Force base and check out the different career fields in action, see what they're doing. Cadet Hellman, did you go to Andrews Air Force Base? Is that right?
No, I went to Little Rock in Arkansas. We went to Andrews, I believe, my freshman year as a detachment-wide PDT when we saw the Thunderbirds.
What kind of things did you get to see when you went to Little Rock?
They essentially just took us around all the different types of squadrons. It would be usually from about 0800 to roughly 1400, and then the rest of that time was your own. We had government vans, so we would go anywhere within, like, I believe we had a 60 or 100-mile radius. So we got to learn a lot of things, and you also just meet a whole bunch of new friends by the end of it, but they start out strangers. So we did things like we went cliff jumping. We watched the fireworks show because we were there in 4th of July. So we watched fireworks in downtown Little Rock, and we kind of just explored and it was essentially a mini vacation while also learning about different types of jobs within an active squadron.
Awesome, thank you. There's a few other opportunities I would like to highlight. We also partner with the Air Force Academy and send our cadets to do really cool things like jumping out of perfectly good airplanes, flying glider aircraft, and even some powered flight options as well. We have some awesome internships that are available through some major laboratories, national laboratories that we have throughout the United States. Even projects where you have to get a security clearance to be a part of the academics that they're doing and the projects that they're working on at those areas. We have options to go overseas and learn a foreign language and be engrossed in the culture and get a taste of what it might mean to be a foreign areas officer in the Air Force as well. And lots of other programs. There's just too many to name. I feel like every week I'm sending out a new notification to the wing about opportunities for professional development. We also do a lot of fun things. You'll see the top right picture. There is Cadet Hellman in his uniform there with, I don't know if anybody's familiar with this guy. This is the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, the one that just retired, General Goldfein. He was replaced by General Brown, of course. So you get an option to meet lots of really great people, really influential leaders through some of the activities that we have. We also have really good activities close to home. So we've got some, the Arnold Air Society is a wonderful place to build some camaraderie and some discipline and learn more about Air Force heritage. We have an aviation club that is quite active. Cadet Sacco heads that up. And Cadet Sacco, you recently had a special guest, I believe, a couple weeks ago that you invited in. Can you tell us about how that went?
Yes, we did. We had Major Hedrick, who Lieutenant Colonel Hedrick might know, who was a retired F-15E Strike Eagle pilot, come into the club and provide some great mentorship and just have like a Q&A session for just hours. It was just amazing information and opportunities for us cadets to learn, not only about what it is like being a fighter pilot, but also just going through the training pipeline.
Awesome, thanks, Cadet Sacco. We also do a lot of fun things throughout the semester. We'll talk about careers and we'll have really fun times to hang out and have dining ins and dining outs. We were actually able to do a major function at the end of the year and had an awesome time in what we call the dining in a safe way, but in a way that was, in line with COVID requirements, but was awesome. And I know that not every university has had that opportunity this year. So we were really thankful for the way that the cadets formatted all of our training to be safe and be in line with local restrictions and requirements, and also to have a lot of fun and learn a lot as well. So I talked a little bit about what the program looks like. This slide kind of breaks it down for you visually. So you'll see in the yellow, we call the general military course. That's your freshman and sophomore year. Really, it's about learning the basics of the Air Force, learning about followership and teamwork, and a chance, if you are not on a scholarship already or otherwise contracted to the Air Force, gives you a chance to figure out if the Air Force ROTC program and the Air or Space Force is for you. You really get to sample it out, try the training, see if you like it. We get to see if we like you too, and see if you're a good fit to be an officer in one of our Air and Space Forces as well. Between your sophomore and junior year, you will most likely be going to field training. We had some COVID issues this past summer, and we're only able to get about half of our trainees through the pipeline. So this summer, they are going to push through the rest of the folks. So it's going to be a major event this coming summer to do field training. Field training is about a 13-day examination of what you learned the previous 2 years in ROTC. How good of a leader are you? Can you follow basic directions for marching? Can you lead a flight in marching? How good are you under stress? How physically fit are you? And at the end of it, you learn a lot about yourself and what you're capable of. And it's really an awesome time. Cadet Ross, do you want to tell us maybe an experience that you had at field training, what it meant to you?
So for me, field training was a huge opportunity to, like Lieutenant Colonel Hedrick said, learn about myself and my own leadership style, because you get down there and you're put in these situations that you've either never experienced before or are just entirely new to you. And you have the opportunity to lead so many other people at once, and you realize that every little decision that you make is going to have an impact on other people. And being able to go through that experience really helps you coming back to ROTC and the lead lab environment with your own detachment, because you now know that, like I said, the decisions you make are going to have a huge impact on people. And so that helps you back here at ROTC. But some good experiences I had down there were, again, just being able to lead people. And honestly, a lot of the failures were what I remember the most, because they were the times that I learned the most and was able to, go back and fix things. And you get so close with the cadets in your flight, and they give you feedback. You're very honest with each other, constructive criticism. And if you make a mistake, then they hold you accountable to it. So you learn a lot about yourself just from your mistakes, and because you have so many other people who are also there helping you grow and pointing things out for you. So it's really an amazing experience. I had a very good time.
Thanks, Cadet Ross. So after field training, after the culmination of that 2 years of hard work and learning about the program and learning who you are as a leader, we put you in the professional officer course. And this is typically our juniors and our seniors, who then teach the freshmen and sophomores all about leadership techniques and put them through the paces and make sure that they're ready to be part of the upper class cadre. The really big focus on there is leadership and team building. And then by the spring semester of your senior year, we are just pumping those seniors full of preparation for what it's going to be like to go on to active duty, to go to undergraduate pilot training, to go to CISO training and learn about what it means to really serve in the positions that you've been given in the Air or Space Force. So some people aren't so familiar with the Air Force and how it's structured. And so I like to talk a little bit about the difference between being in the ROTC program and going to your local recruiting office and enlisting. So the officer rank is on the top left there, and the enlisted, at least part of the officer enlisted rank is there. We didn't list all of them. And the next couple slides will show a little bit of what the difference is. So officers are only about 20% of the Air Force and 80% of them are enlisted. Typically, officers will take on leadership roles and the enlisted personnel will be the technical specialists. So, you know, we also have some specialty career fields for just officers, pilots, doctors, lawyers, although I will say they did just recently start having enlisted members be remotely piloted aircraft pilots as well. So there is a little crossover there. Enlisted personnel, once they get higher in rank, start doing the supervisory and managing roles later in their career. To be an officer, you have to have a bachelor's degree to come online and commission. Enlisted can come right out of high school, although I will say the Air Force is very advanced in schooling, and we encourage all of our members to achieve a high level of school, and many of our enlisted members have bachelor's degree and higher. In fact, we have a Master Sergeant Select in our unit who is one of our cadre members, and he actually has a master's in education. So he is an excellent instructor and awesome to have on the team. Typically, officer selection is more selective. You have more responsibility and you get more pay. I think I took out that slide. That's okay. Well, I think I have a slide a little bit later on talking about the difference between some of the pay between officer and enlisted. But first, we'll talk about scholarships. So if you've done any research into the high school scholarship program for ROTC, you'll know that the deadline to apply is tomorrow. So if you're working on that, make sure you get it put in quickly. But I'll go over a little bit of what the scholarship options are for the high schoolers. And don't worry, if you don't get a high school scholarship or it's too late for you to apply, there are options for in-college scholarships as well. So a type 1 scholarship would be a full tuition, public or private school. Type 2 would be up to $18,000 a year. And then type 7 would be authorized up to the in-state tuition rate. Plus a stipend. Hey, if you are contracted and you are committed to being in the Air Force after you graduate college, you are also authorized a stipend for books, and then monthly living expenses as well. You can see them listed. They go up as you progress in rank. And then I will note that some schools, definitely Wilkes, also covers room and board if you're on scholarship. So that's a huge benefit as well. Here are a few of the requirements for the high school scholarship program. And like I said, that deadline to apply is tomorrow, but I wanted to go ahead and leave these slides in here in case you had any questions or just wanted to make you aware of it. So what do you do once you graduate? What are your options in the Air Force and the Space Force? So we've got several majors here that are listed. We are definitely interested in technical majors and foreign language majors. So if that's something that you are skilled at and that you want to be a part of, we're looking for you. If you're not skilled at math and maybe calculus is the devil, that's okay. We're still looking for you too. You make great leaders as well. And so we are definitely excited to have all different kinds of majors in our program. So this might be an interesting area for some people. You know, we have a lot of athletes that come into our program, and so they're quite used to rigorous fitness standards. And then we have several people that are not athletes that come into our program that aren't used to working out, and that, you know, maybe they can only do 2 or 3 push-ups right now, but by the end of the semester, we really work hard at our fitness in DET 752 and really get people to where they need to be in physical fitness shape to be a part of the program and to commission into the Air Force. I show this slide to list the fitness standards that we have for the Air Force. They are the same standards as the Air Force. So ROTC fitness standards are the same as the Air Force standards as well. So this slide is a lot of fun. It's a little misleading because we have stations all over the world, not just in the United States, of where you can go and what you can be. We do have 125 different officer career fields all across the globe. If you commission from ROTC, as a baseline, you will have a 4-year active duty service commitment. But if you go into one of our rated career fields, you will have 10 or 6 years after you complete your initial training. So if you go on to the Air Force website, you will be able to find more descriptions of all of these different career fields. And at the end of the presentation, I'm happy to chat about any of them that you might have questions about and what it means to be a financial management officer or a contracting officer. Maybe you're interested in being a judge advocate. We even have chaplains. Okay, here's that slide that got lost and got moved away. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what you can expect as a career after you graduate college, right? So a lot of us go to college for different reasons. We want to get an education. We want to see who we are before we figure out what we want to do with the rest of our lives. Some of us know that we need to make a living once we graduate from college, right? We got to go out and be adults in the world, and the Air Force is an awesome way to do that. You'll see on the left bar there, it is the second lieutenant who was newly commissioned into the Air Force. He gets a base pay of about $3,200. These slides probably are not fiscal year 21 slides, they're probably fiscal year 20. So I believe we got a pay raise in that changeover. So that's his taxable rate each month is $3,287. Then he'll have a basic allowance for housing. I think the $1,188 rate is what the local rate is here in the Wilkes Scranton area. And then he also gets a basic allowance for subsistence. The housing allowance and the subsistence allowance are not taxed, so that's a huge benefit to you. By the time you get up to be a captain 4 years later, so your standard commitment from ROTC, your monthly paycheck increases significantly, and it's a really good place to be, I think, in the American economy and the benefits that we give to you. So what this chart does is show the difference between if you're deciding whether you want to go meet that recruiter and enlist in the Air Force versus become an officer in the Air Force. You'll see the blue lines are the enlisted pay charts, and then the yellow is the lines that you'll see for being an officer in the Air Force. So after just a few years in the Air Force, the officer pay chart does increase significantly. But pay is not the only thing we're interested in, right? There's many other benefits to being part of the military. You do have some lower taxes because a large chunk of your take-home pay is not taxed. We have TRICARE, so your medical and dental is completely covered. I have not paid for a prescription my entire adult life. We have tuition assistance options. So even while you're on active duty, even if you got a scholarship to go through ROTC, there are options to continue your education and take more classes. And with the advent of virtual education, it's possible from anywhere. I know a lot of people that they deploy and they decide, well, I'm not doing housework and I'm not bathing kids. I'm gonna do some school while I'm deployed. We also have advantages of having the base access with a BX and a base exchange and a commissary. So a grocery store and kind of a super Walmart of places to go buy food and other items for less expensive and without taxes. You get your VA benefits. So I've used those in purchasing a home, no money down to purchase a house, which is a really huge benefit for a lot of folks. We do have the GI Bill. And of course, retirement. So you can retire at 20 years of service and you get half of your base pay for the rest of your life. You get 30 days of paid leave every year. We do have lots of other options on base for legal and financial services available to you. We also have a gym at every base. Most bases will have a golf course that will be relatively inexpensive. Lots of good options there. And then we do have space available to travel. So if you are near a base that has a large cargo planes traveling around the world routinely, you can jump on board if they've got space. So I know you're all asking, how do I sign up for Air Force ROTC Detachment 752? You're in the right place. Talk to us, we'll get you registered, or you can just show up on the first day of classes and attend new student orientation at the beginning of the semester. And our awesome NCOs will get all your paperwork set, and we'll get you on the right path to being part of our organization. In order to commission, so that's become a lieutenant in the Aerospace Force, you do have to pass fitness assessments and what we call the Air Force Officer Qualifying Test. So it's a lot like the ACT or SAT, and with requirements, a minimum requirement to pass. You must be a US citizen, and you must also pass a medical screening. Okay, so that's our most recent group picture that we took over at the Armory just down the road from the university. So we talked about what ROTC is, some of the scholarship options, what you can do after you commission into the Air and Space Forces, some of the benefits that come along with being a lieutenant, a little bit about how you join, and now we have some time for some Q&A. Do we have any questions from anyone in the group? You're welcome to chat, put them in the chat box, or unmute and say it out loud. Okay, I've got a question. Cadet Hellman, you play baseball.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
is it like to be a collegiate athlete and be a part of the ROTC program? Do you have time for that?
Yeah, that's one big thing we definitely learned. It was kind of implemented and routinely told to us day one and on that time management is a major component necessary within ROTC, and not only that, just life in general. So I mean, yeah, I'm involved with a lot of things within ROTC, but I still have time to keep up my schoolwork and attend majority of practices and games. So it's definitely doable. I know coming into college, I asked our old former commander, Major Birma. She was super helpful in telling me that she also played sports going into ROTC, and I was still pretty shaky about it, but 4 years later, here I am. No complaints, really.
Thank you, Cadet Hellman. We do have, let's see, we have a question coming in. Is there a way to apply for the scholarship late? The SATs were canceled and the student never had a chance to take them. So Air Force ROTC maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago made the decision that you don't need to have, if you were unable to take the ACT or the SAT because of COVID, you don't have to have a score. You do not have to take the AC or SAT to put in your application for Air Force ROTC scholarships. I know some people were able to take them really early, so maybe when they were a sophomore or early in their junior year or something, and maybe didn't get the score they wanted and were planning on taking it again later. If you were able to take it, you have to use that score. And if it's not high enough, then you're unfortunately not qualified for the scholarship at that point. But if you are unable to take the SAT or ACT and you don't have a score, you are still able to submit your application. So Ethan, if you've got everything else done and you're ready to hit submit, I say go ahead and do it. You've got till tomorrow. Any other questions about the ACT, SAT, and scholarships? Okay, we had another question that says, is it possible to be involved in the nursing program and be a part of ROTC? Yes, we have 4 or 5 nursing students, I think that 4. So we've got a handful of them that are involved in the rigorous academics that it takes to be in the nursing program here, and also are part of ROTC. In fact, one of them was just awarded a scholarship this last semester. So he was taking classes on his own dime, and then because of his performance, he was able to get an ROT scholarship to continue his studies. I will caveat that with there are not a lot of nursing jobs in the Air Force that we commission out of ROTC. So kind of one of the nuances to the ROTC program is you don't necessarily get to pick what you want to be when you commission. So we have a certain number of slots for each job that we have, and you compete for those kind of categories of slots in between during your sophomore year. And there are very few nursing slots. So you could be in the ROTC program, be a nursing student, and then you could be offered a nursing kind of option the end of your sophomore year, and then continue through. And then once you graduate, you go into Air Force as a nurse. Or they might say, well, we want you in the Air Force, but we don't have a nursing slot for you. We'll give you a non-rated or a rated slot instead. And then at that point, you would have to decide if you want to continue in ROTC and maybe commission in some other career field, or say goodbye to ROTC. And as long as you're not on scholarship or otherwise contracted, then there would be no commitment to ROTC. Any more questions about nursing? Okay, so Ryan asks, what jobs are available with a psychology degree? Good question. So the medical career field is different. So I talked a little bit about nursing, and we do have psychologists in the Air Force. So if you were a practicing psychologist, we have those. We have social workers as well that are commissioned. Typically, the people in those very specialized career fields come in through what we call the commissioned officer training program, and there's a different route for that. And I unfortunately do not have the contact information for the recruiter for medical recruiting, but what I can do is put our email address, and if you want more information about medical recruiting into the Air Force, send us a message and we'll get you hooked up with the right people. What possibilities are there that are related to nursing? So we have some awesome nursing opportunities in the Air Force. So if you're not familiar with the Air Force, we're kind of like little cities. The bases are kind of like little cities. We've got our grocery store, and we've got our like Super Walmart, and we've got a tire shop on base, and we also have hospitals at a lot of bases. So everything that you would find in a hospital, you're going to find at several of our major bases. So we'll have also some of the non-major bases will have smaller clinics as well. And so there are lots of options. Obviously, nursing is going to be involved throughout a hospital or a clinic. So the standard practices from everything from pediatrics to primary care to emergency room nursing, to even some really cool experiences in the deployed environment. So some emergency nursing that might happen in a deployed environment, and even some medical evacuation. So you would be the nurse that takes care of patients on an aircraft, evacuating them out of the war zone or something like that. So some really cool opportunities with nursing as well. Let's see. Do you get many four-year scholarship students at Wilkes? This is my first semester at Wilkes, so I don't have a huge knowledge base of history of how many students we get that come in for four-year scholarships. I know we have one who is a freshman this year, who did get a four-year scholarship and chose to come to Wilkes as well. Then we have several students that end up getting scholarships while they're in the ROTC program with us. So I would say a good number of folks that are in the program have either an ROTC scholarship or a scholarship from some other source, and that's definitely authorized as well. Elena asked, what is the required for the sophomore year scholarship? So I don't have the specifics in front of me, and they might change just a little bit every year. It's a competitive scholarship. So there will be a GPA requirement. So you're going to have to keep your grades up. So I would say don't slack off that first year when you come into college. Do your best, do well in your classes, and excel, and do I think the cutoff this year for GPA was no lower than a 2.8, but like I said, it's competitive. So the higher your GPA, the better. You have to do well militarily as well. So you have to perform and show that you have the potential for leadership, that you are a good candidate for the program, and that you're willing to stick it out. So you have to perform well in your classes and in leadership laboratory as well. And I believe your fitness score counts as well. So make sure you're in good shape and you do well in your fitness assessments. Cadets who are on the line, am I missing something else? What else goes into that scholarship requirement? Do you remember?
Your ranking, man.
Yep. So the Air Force is all about kind of evaluation along the way. We are very interested in how well are you doing, how can you improve, how can you do better, and one of the ways to do that is to compare you to your peers, and so that will take the form of a ranking among your peers, and the higher ranked you are, the more competitive you'll be for a scholarship. Ryan asked, what advice would you give to someone who is not sure what job and degree to go for? Man, I'm going to pass that over to Cadet Sacco. What do you think? What advice would you give Ryan?
So regarding degree, I believe there is the, you don't have to choose your degree, at least at Wilkes, for your entire first year of college. So I would definitely go into that and then take your general education courses and just try to figure out what you are interested interested about. So I was interested in political science and history, so I went for international studies. And it kind of worked that way, because for my first semester, I actually didn't have a major. I was undecided technically. Regarding what I would say for picking a job, is the great thing about ROTC is you're gonna have your first couple of years to figure out what you are interested in doing in the Air Force. So really just keep an open mind. And during our classes, we get a lot of opportunities to talk to prior officers, like we mentioned before with the aviation club, or just during training, and figure out what career field you think you would be interested in. So don't feel pressured like that you have to join the program knowing that like, oh, I want to be a pilot really bad. Or don't ever feel that if you don't want to be a pilot, that you'll be like one of the only few who doesn't. Just come in here with an open-minded, and I'm sure you'll find something that you'll enjoy.
Thanks, Cadet Sacco. Any other questions from our attendees? Okay, I've got one. Cadet Ross, what is a day in the life of an ROTC cadet like on a Thursday?
So on a Thursday, depending on your year, so whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior, your first ROTC event of the day will be AS class. And for us juniors and seniors, that's a 3-hour class that takes place from 11 to 2 o'clock. If you're a freshman or sophomore, I believe the class times are 2:30 to 3:30 and 1:30 to 2:30. I'm not sure which one is which, I can't remember. Again, I was an AS 250, so I had to take them both at the same time. So when I was a sophomore and joined late, I took the freshman and the sophomore class back to back. So you have your class, your AS class is what it's called, Aerospace Studies class. And so for you guys, freshmen, sophomores, that'll just be 1 hour. And immediately following that class, or about, half an hour to an hour later, we have our leadership laboratory. That takes place from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And that's, again, where we just train, and it's cadet run. So you'll have the juniors and the seniors who are training the freshmen and the sophomores. You guys will be going over things like drill. You'll learn our customs and courtesies. You'll do some things that we call GLPs. They're leadership little games games where we are able to evaluate your leadership skills and your followership skills. So it's just 2 hours of training and kind of, honing your skills. And then after that 2-hour leadership laboratory, we have 1 hour of physical training, and it's pretty intense sometimes, but it's a lot of fun. And this past semester, we were able to actually get outside to Kirby Park and do our PT outside, which was great. It was really refreshing. But if we're not outside, we're in the Wilkes University MAC gym. So it's really a great experience and opportunity for fitness for people who don't really work out outside of ROTC, but that's the typical day. For the most part, I know a lot of students try not to schedule many classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays so that they do have a day to dedicate to ROTC without having any conflicting, scheduling conflicts. But I know in the past, I have had class conflicts with my aerospace studies class or with leadership laboratory. So typically, cadre are pretty willing to work with you. And if you have to miss, half a class, due to an academic class, they'll give you a waiver or they'll give you maybe an assignment to do instead of that. But I know Cadet Hellman and I both this coming semester have, I believe, 2 to 3 classes on Thursdays. So, this semester we'll both be running back and forth between Kings and Wilkes. But again, if you're able to schedule your classes, on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, then you don't have to worry about that. But if you do have to worry about having classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, it is possible. If you're a crosstown cadet, a little bit harder, but it's just a matter of working with cadre and letting them know your schedule. So really depends on your class schedule. It can either be a really hectic day where you're going from, 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, or it could be not so bad and you just have your ROTC activities. But in the end, it's a lot of fun, but expect to be going from morning to night.
Cadet Hellman, what's it like to wear your Air Force ROTC uniform on campus and to non-Air Force classes? What does that feel like, and how are you treated?
It depends on the person. If my friends personally, they love to make fun of me for it. They refer to it as dress up day, which it's all in good fun. Doesn't really bother me. But you definitely get some, especially that first couple times you're out around campus in uniform. Obviously, you're gonna break some necks because people are gonna be like, "Why is that kid in uniform on campus? We're in college." But over time, some people will come up to you and ask you, and you'll give them a little rundown on like the main reason. What I've came to notice is that professors kind of treat you a little better if you're in uniform, majority of the time, just because they kind of have that little unspoken respect that you are in uniform, sitting in the classroom with kids that I know when I'm not in uniform, I'm usually in sweatpants and a hoodie because I like to be comfortable. So like you definitely stand out, but it's while walking around in uniform on campus, you definitely feel like you have a little chip on your shoulder, and like it's definitely a pride thing because you're standing out over everyone else. And that's just another reason to wear the uniform well and represent the Air Force in a positive manner because eyes are on you.
Cadet Hellman, you hit on a good point that ROTC is respected on campus. We have a reputation for the Air Force core values, right? So integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. There are very few other students on campus who are taking that oath and abiding by it and working on their character in that way. And so we definitely have a good reputation on campus. We have good relationships with the Wilkes University president, all the department heads and deans. So it's a well-respected program, and it's going to stay that way because that's important to us and that's important to the Air Force and Space Force. Looks like we have another question from Elena. Is it possible to enlist in the National Guard and do Air Force ROTC? There is a way to be a part of, in fact, I think we've got a cadet who's coming online this semester, right, who is a National Guard member, was going to be in class last semester and got deployed with the National Guard. So I'm not exactly sure how all of that paper trail works, but there is a possibility to do both. I don't know if any of the cadets online are more familiar with that process. Go ahead, Cadet Sacco.
Yeah, so I know Cadet Kato, she's in the Air Force Reserves. And my understanding is you can be in the National Guard or Reserves just whenever you go in you cannot get an Air Force ROTC scholarship. You cannot be contracted, so you cannot be sworn into the Air Force ROTC program until you are out of the Reserves or National Guard.
So it sounds like there is a way to do it, and I would recommend talking to the Guard recruiter if that's something you're interested in. Awesome. So we have about 10 more minutes in the scheduled time, so we're happy to take more questions. Or if you feel like you got all the information you need, you're welcome to step out and enjoy the rest of your evening. Let's see. Cadet Sacco, can you tell us maybe one of your fondest experiences in ROTC, something that you really enjoyed so far?
So one thing I really enjoyed was the personal development training, the PDTs that I was awarded, fortunately, when I was in the GMC. So I got several ones. So I got to go do Operations Air Force, just like what Cadet Hellman said about. I went out to Travis Air Force Base in California, and I really enjoyed that. I also really enjoyed this summer. I got paid to take 10 college credits and learn Russian under a Project Global Officer. And if it wasn't for COVID-19, I'd have almost a guaranteed spot to spend my summer in Estonia or Latvia. So missed opportunities because of COVID, but the Air Force has really given me a lot of great learning experiences that are really helping me broaden myself out.
Cadet Sacco, did you have to pay to travel to go to any of those places?
Nope, I actually got paid for my time there. So I got to go learn a lot about the Air Force and get to do a lot of really cool things while being paid to be there. So almost zero expenses. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's one of the great things, right? So there's a lot of really good experiences that you can get in college, and a lot of them cost a lot of money. But what the ROTC program tries to do is give you an opportunity to grow and develop and experience things that benefit the Air Force, but also benefit you personally and benefit your future career in the Air Force and beyond the Air Force. And we really try to make it accessible to everyone, especially with regards to finances. All right, Ethan's got a question. Can you register before the first semester? Okay, we've got you hooked. Awesome. Yes, we can get started on some of that stuff, but really welcome to register with Wilkes University. Register for our AS, if you're going to be an incoming freshman, so that'd be AS 101 and Leadership Laboratory. But if that doesn't work out for you, welcome to just show up the first day, which is when we're going to do all our paperwork anyway. There is a lot of paperwork that's required, and so in our new student orientation program, we will get all of that paperwork at once from everyone. If you, I put in the chat the ROTC email address. You're welcome to directly email that and say that you want to join up, and then we'll make sure that we've got you on our contact list so that we can tell you all the things you need to start collecting when you come that first day for new student orientation. We'll see you there, Ethan. All right, any other questions from any attendees? Cadet Ross, you led our fitness program last semester. Can you talk about one of your typical workouts that you did with us?
Absolutely. So I tried to vary them up a bit. From week to week, we would try and do things like HIIT or high intensity interval training. We would do some calisthenics outside. We would do different obstacle courses around the entire park. And one specific one we did a lot, it was a HIIT workout. where it's basically you're working out for a timed interval and then you get a specific time to rest and you do a bunch of those in a row for the amount of PT. There's water breaks in between, but we do a lot of push-ups, a lot of burpees, a lot of sit-ups. I tried to include some running in there. It's a little bit harder depending on whether we're inside or outside, but you're definitely going to get a sweat on for sure. One of the most fun physical trainings I think we did last semester was an obstacle course where we had different stations set up throughout the park, and it was about a mile course, but we had PVC pipes and sandbags, and cadets were running and carrying all this equipment around the park, and they had to time it, and they were going against teams, and it was a lot of fun. And it was later in the semester, so it started to get dark pretty early, so we had to kind of wrap it up before we finished, but it was a lot of fun. We were able to incorporate fitness into a more fun environment as well. So it is a good time. You have everyone there, the entire detachment, so 60, 70 cadets, you're all pushing each other, you're all motivating each other. It's a huge morale booster, but I do highly recommend working out and working on your fitness outside as well. But it for sure is a lot of fun, but do expect to get a good sweat on.
Very good. Looks like we have a question for you, Cadet Ross. Ryan asks, what has been your favorite experience in ROTC?
Wow. Okay. So my favorite experience of all time in ROTC, definitely it'd be between field training and probably just POC experience in general. I know field training was one of the best experiences I've had in my life, and definitely, like I said, I learned so much about myself. And I know a lot of people are, terrified to go down there because it's basically basic training for ROTC cadets. So it's a shortened version, kind of not as intense, but it can be an intimidating experience for people because you are expected to, know everything that you've learned up to a certain point, and you are evaluated on that. But for me, it was getting new friends. Your flight became your second family for 2 weeks, and you don't have your phone on you, you don't have any electronics, so it's just your flight out in the heat of Alabama, sweating and working hard and working on your leadership, working on your followership, and you get so much good mentorship from your peers, from POC who are down there helping to train, and from officers who are in the Air Force. And there's enlisted personnel down there as well who give you so much mentorship, and everything you do, you get feedback on. So if you make a mistake, immediate feedback. If you do something well, typically it's recognized. And so you are just able to learn with every decision you make what is good and what is bad. And again, that just helps you come back to the lead lab environment and incorporate that into training plans. So I think field training was probably my favorite experience so far, but the POC life is also super fun because while it is a lot of work, because it is kind of like a part-time job, you have a lot of work outside of lead lab in order to put together all those training plans, but it's such an awesome opportunity to be put in a position that's very similar to something like what you're going to be doing on active duty, but just in a smaller cadet form, so like Lieutenant Colonel Hedrick said, I led PT last semester, and we have different jobs where people are in charge of our finances or in charge of reserving locations that we need to use, or specific groups that are in charge of doing the training, or cadets who are in charge of actually doing the training with the cadets. So many different jobs you can do in POC life. So POC in general is great, but I think my favorite experience was field training. So don't let anything scare you about that. It's an awesome opportunity. And if you all join, it's not something to be afraid of, I promise.
Thanks, Cadet Ross. Do we have any other questions from our attendees? Well, I want to say thank you for participating in our virtual open house. Welcome into my house, this kind of crazy world we live in where things are virtual and we're working from our own homes. So thank you for being a part of it and for making that connection over the internet. Thank you to Cadet Ross, Cadet Hellman, Cadet Sacco for giving your time and your expertise to our potential cadets that are on the line. And of course, if you have any questions, reach out to that email that I put in the chat box. It is also located on our webpage. If you go to Wilkes University and search for Air Force ROTC, our contact information is there. A little bit more about our program, shows some of the cadre that are there that we have, and you can learn more about what we do and what we're all about. Happy to answer any questions as you get closer to the new semester starting as well. So with that, we will say thank you, appreciate your time, and everyone have a great night. Awesome.
Thanks much for the time. It was very well put together and informative. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye.